Hello and welcome to another episode of Geek Speak. We're your hosts. I'm Chris.
I'm Jon.
And let's jump straight into it this week. First bit of news is about the upcoming Supergirl and Flash crossovers. Now, a few months ago we reported on the fact that Supergirl had been dropped by its original network and picked up by the CW network, which is currently the home of the Flash and the Arrow series. And this more recent news has basically indicated how they're going about adding Supergirl, who has now had a full series where she's in her own universe, with the Flash and Arrow universes, which would be kind of hard considering that it was established in Supergirl's series that her world has had Superman for a number of years. Which, as Jon would know better than me, not a character that has been in the Arrow or Flash series at any point or even referenced.
No, doesn't exist in those worlds really, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
So, be interesting how they pull that one.
Well, the way they've said so far is that they'll be starting off the third season of The Flash with basically adapting the comic book storyline of the Flashpoint Crisis, which was basically where they had a whole lot of alternate realities crashing into each other because of a Flash character.
Yeah.
And during all of this and mixing a bit of time travel, they're going to fuse the two worlds together so that any continuity errors, such as the fact that we've got, I think, 5 or 6 seasons of Arrow and 2 seasons of The Flash without Kryptonians.
Yeah.
They can just say, oh, well, the reason that that's happened and now everyone has known about Kryptonians for years is because of a time traveller messing with stuff. Which is a bit of a cop-out, but...
Bit of a cop-out, yeah. But Supergirl getting publicity is always good.
Yeah, and... I mean, she is one of those characters who is massively powerful and massively popular in her own right. I think there have been about 6 different versions of her in the comics.
She's a character that doesn't get a lot of publicity in my eyes as well.
Yeah.
Like, she should have more out there, but just doesn't.
Yeah, and I really like what they've done with this series in having it be a world that has Superman, but, the only times we've seen Superman in Supergirl so far was we saw a blurry silhouette of him. We haven't seen him any other time, and in fact there are plans in the second season now to actually put an actor in that role and have him be in front of the camera and clearly seen.
I guess it's good because it gives Supergirl more exposure.
Yeah. And
everyone's not...
to help, again, because this is new for the CW network, to tie it in with their other series, The Flash and the Arrow, they're actually having another crossover episode, similar to where previously The Flash crossed over into Supergirl's world. This one they're having probably a bit after the Flashpoint event. They'll be having the Supergirl and Flash series each have a crossover episode of their own. Supposedly, they will be musical episodes, similar in theory to the old episode of Buffy, Once More with Feeling.
I like this because it's always a nice little hint for the comic nerds out there. Like, I know when they did the Flash Arrow crossover episode, it was like, I know who that is straight away.
Yeah. And it was, it will be funny being a musical episode, because they've already stated that the majority of the songs in the episodes will be existing songs, but they're looking at making maybe one new song per episode, or one original song, and there have been rumours that it might be directed by Joss Whedon, who many of you will know as the mind behind Buffy, Angel, Serenity, and the director of the recent Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron. And he's really got a bit of a musical pedigree, not only because of that one episode of Buffy, Once More with Feeling, but also because of his short online outing, which was Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, which was it was brilliant.
Yeah, it's definitely something to check out.
It's definitely something I'm looking forward to. Even if the rumours of his involvement aren't true, to see if they can do a good job of having a comedy musical episode, because both Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash, and I can't remember her name right now, the lady who plays Supergirl, both had small parts previously on Glee, so pulling out their singing chops would be quite interesting once again.
Moving on to the second story, it's a bit sad, but last night actually Kenny Baker has passed away, and some of you guys out there might know him as the person who played R2-D2 in the Star Wars films.
Now, this is mostly like the original trilogy, as by the time the
4, 5, 6.
even the prequel trilogy came out, they mostly used CG, and now in the later, in episode 7, they actually used a fully robotic R2-D2.
Yeah, this is 4, 5, 6 episodes you will probably see from.
He wasn't the guy who made the beeps. He was the guy who actually sat inside the R2 body and controlled its motion from in there, which wouldn't have been very comfortable, especially in the Tatooine scenes, since it's basically a giant, like a metal trash can.
Yeah, he was 81, and he had ongoing illnesses, so it wasn't an unexpected crisis from what we know. It was an ongoing thing.
Yeah,
but it is sad.
From what you were reading out earlier, or telling me about even, he's been battling with this for a number of months, and in fact he wanted to go to the premiere of episode 7 in Hollywood, but his health just wouldn't allow him to make the travel.
Yeah, heart goes out for the family as well. Sorry guys, it would be pretty much of a tough loss there. So
he's a legend.
He's a legend,
and played one of the most popular characters in the entire Star Wars franchise, and one of only a couple of characters now that has had a role in every single Star Wars movie, including the direct-to-video and TV movies of the Wookiee Christmas and the Droid Adventures.
Yeah.
I think he even turned up in an episode of the Star Wars Rebels series at some point.
So that's very sad.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yep. My second story is actually a review of the game No Man's Sky, which released earlier this week. I've got to say, first impression, it is exactly what I expected it to be in some ways, and in others, it's less than I expected. Now, what I mean by that is, before it came out, we all expected it to be a very open-ended, very exploration-based, very long game, which it is. You basically can go anywhere at any time as long as you have the resources to do it. And that one word, resource, is probably what gives the game the most of its longevity at this point, because you go through resources. It's kind of hard to come up with a good analogy for it, but the simplest way I can say it is that you go through it like it's going out of fashion.
Yeah,
It's
just drains over and over.
It's like trying to trying to collect a lot of resources is like trying to fill a sieve with water. You're going to keep putting stuff in, and it's just going to keep going down. Now, that in itself, kind of understandable. If the particular resources you need were easier to find, if you had more storage room, as at the beginning you have very little storage room, if some of the harder to acquire elements weren't so important, and if there weren't little floating eyeball things that try and kill you if you mine too much. Now, again, this mostly we expected, but the one thing that really disappointed me was the story. Admittedly, a game like this, the story's not meant to be a be-all end-all type of situation. It's not like your Star Wars Battlefronts or CODs, where the story is secondary to a multiplayer. This game is essentially single player. But at the same time, it's not like your Halos or pretty much any other story-driven game, because while it does have a story, it's thin enough that you could break it with a grain of sand. You literally, at the beginning of the game, you find an item, or you find something, you get the choice to follow it, or go off on your own. If you go off on your own, that's fine. You've got quintillions of planets to find and explore, and like I said, that makes up the meat of the game. But the story is basically jump from this system to this system until you find random item, and then that gives you the ability to go to a certain area in the space stations that you encounter, and helps you go to the next system and the system after that, and just keep going until you reach the centre of the universe. And that's where the story ends.
It's kind of like a Spore type thing, isn't it?
Kind of. It's very much like in Spore, where you spend all this time building up to get to the centre of the galaxy, and you get given a tool that instantly terraforms a planet to a third tier, tier 3 planet. Whereas with this, I'm not sure what you find at the middle, because the only person who has so far done it has refused to reveal any details about it, so as not to spoil it for anyone else. But the simple fact is, there's hints at a bigger ongoing story about the races interacting with this, the story, the Atlas, it's called. There's the occasional story about the Sentinels, which are the eyeball-like things that are basically like really angry robotic space police. And that's about it, really. You can go from one system to the next, talk to an alien NPC, and they will have nothing to do with each other except maybe sharing reputation and being of the same species.
So what's good about No Man's Sky? What's all the fuss about, in your opinion?
Probably the exploration, and the fact that anything you find, you can rename and you can share. I mean, I haven't really spent a lot of time renaming things. I think I renamed one planet Radbrad because it was radioactive, and that's a nickname of a friend of mine.
Radbrad.
But for the most part, it is just because you can go and do whatever you want. If you want to go to a planet and kill every living thing you find, you can do that. If you want to go to a space station and, well, you can't actually draw your weapon on the station, but you can buy other people's ships and transfer everything on your ship into theirs. You can go hunting space pirates if you want to. If you get your ship upgraded enough, you can take on freighters, which early in the game, like I am, will take you out like swatting a fly. Its main draw is the fact that you have that much freedom. The only real game elements that restrict you to anything is the fact that you need isotopes normally to recharge your equipment. You need oxides to build equipment, and normally you need silicates, and occasionally you'll find rare elements or rare tradables that you can sell to get money. Other than that...
So is this a pure MMO, or is this partially online, partially offline?
It's a bit of both. You can play it offline, but if you play it online, you can get access to a database that they call the Atlas, which basically has all the information that all the players around the world have uploaded onto the Atlas. Which, in-game, uploading something to the Atlas gives you I think it's something like 1,000 credits, or 1,000 units, which is their currency.
That's good.
It's not bad, but I really want to see them strengthen the story, and I really hope to see them see if they can get rid of the bug that they had that has probably been reported on enough that we don't really need to talk about it here.
There is an upcoming update for all of you No Man's Sky players. It's supposed to reduce lag and reduce the bugs as well.
Which we aren't sure if this is related to the PS4 players, as I personally, playing on PS4, haven't encountered any lag, but
I think it's Windows.
I think, yeah, it seems mostly Windows, like aimed at Windows players, although I would like to see them make a few changes, maybe make it easier to know whether or not you're actually following the story, because I'm about 10-15 hours and I'm not sure, maybe 7 or 8 star systems in, and I have no idea if I'm even following the story or not.
Alright, so that concludes that story?
Yeah.
Out of 10, finalise it from what you've played
Out
so
of 10
far.
at the moment, I'd probably give it a 7, and that's being optimistic if they fix, like I said, that's that one story issue, and the fact that, like I said, I don't even know if I'm following it or not, because it doesn't tell you.
The problem with exploration is, I think a lot of people get bored really quickly.
Yeah, it gets old.
Like, you can only do so much before you're like, oh, yep, just do the same thing, the same thing.
I'm a perfectionist, but you stick me on the same planet for 2 hours hunting down knowledge stones to learn words from one of the 3 languages, and I just get bored and have to turn it off for a day or so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. So we'll move on. The last story, which is mine, just wanted to confirm to everyone out there that Bethesda is not working on an Elder Scrolls 6 at the moment. There's a lot of rumours out there that say that they are, which are incorrect.
Yeah, there's a lot of this has been talk that the team that was behind Skyrim and Fallout 4 are working on a new project. And most people have been saying that, if that team's working on something and they're still doing like the DLC for Fallout 4, then it must be a new Elder Scrolls game.
That's completely incorrect.
Yeah, and that's what people are getting wrong.
Yeah, they've actually come out and said that they will make an Elder Scrolls 6, but they haven't started it in production yet.
Yeah, the managing director of Bethesda actually put out a statement that they are working on a new project, but that it's wrong of people to automatically assume that they're working on either Elder Scrolls or Fallout. And in his words, he said they're not a two-button machine that one you press Elder Scrolls and the other you press and you get Fallout. They have the creative freedom to work on any project they want, and from the sounds of it, that's what they're doing.
And Bethesda, as good as they are, I mean, they've perfected this RPG element, so I think they're going to stick to that, but they might try and do another franchise. I mean, there's only so many games of Fallout you can make, and Elder Scrolls 5, still play it, still amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the games that they've released, like 3 of their biggest franchises at the moment are Elder Scrolls. If you discount the mediocre, some would almost say failed response that they got to Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
They've got Fallout, which, I mean, before Fallout 3 was released, the franchise was looking at going online and becoming a Fallout Online, and Fallout 3 basically changed all of that and has made it one of the biggest RPG franchises there is.
Yeah.
And now they've got Doom as well. And quite frankly, I've just finished running through the single player campaign and it is brilliant. It's not like Fallout or Skyrim where the combat is very simple and very RPG-ish. It's very action heavy and it's very fast. Like, you stop moving, you die. Because basically you're constantly outnumbered and they're after you. But it still has those elements of, as you're going through, depending on how effective you are in combat, you unlock weapon upgrade points. You can find upgrades for your armour, you can find upgrades for the amount of health, armour and ammo you can carry. It still has those little bits of RPG elements beyond your usual Doom formula from the previous games of, oh look, I found a minigun, or oh look, I found a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Now I just need ammo for it. This allows you to upgrade and branch out, and the more you explore, the more upgrades you can buy.
I would like Bethesda to do something different for a change, because I think there's more potential there that they're not actually tapping into.
I mean, one thing I really want to see is Bethesda make a new original property.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, they all existed before Bethesda bought them. And I really want to see what sort of world or what sort of gameplay Bethesda could come up with if they're going from the ground up creating their own property.
And I think they've got the resources there. So if they're not working on Skyrim, hopefully that's what they're doing. Like, maybe it's not an RPG grinder, and I hope it is actually not so much RPG, because they've got Skyrim, they've got Fallout. Like, you don't want to just be doing the same thing over and over in different textures.
It'd be really good to see the move away from that RPG. I mean, they're still good at strong story-based games, but we've seen now with Doom, like I said, they can do a very action-heavy game that has minimal RPG elements. And we've seen the success of that style of game with stuff like BioShock, Doom, even, you name it, Deus Ex, Dead Space. they're all similar style games, and they've all been massively popular.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to see something new.
yeah, I'd like to see what Bethesda can do, just taking everything they've learned from all the games they've made over the years and going somewhere different with it. Because as great as their RPGs and even Doom are,
that shit gets old.
well, yeah. And as a studio, yeah, you can turn around and go, oh yeah, we've got this franchise and this franchise and this franchise, which are all massively popular. But you'll stagnate if you don't branch out. Look at a company like Blizzard. It started out with
World of Warcraft.
With Warcraft, StarCraft, and Diablo. 2 RTSs and
An RPG.
an RPG.
Or MMO.
Well, originally it was a one player or 2 player.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking Diablo 3.
And then
back in the day of Diablo 1 and 2.
They branched out with World of Warcraft and became the biggest MMO in history and one of the earliest 3D MMOs.
That really set the tone.
And since then they've gone into card battlers, they've gone into arena battlers, they've gone into first-person shooter arena battlers. They've branched out they've got almost every genre. All they really need now is an action RPG, because as actiony as Diablo is, it's still the same, essentially the same basic format. Them doing something like the rumoured but cancelled StarCraft Ghost FPS game would have been brilliant. But even like going back to Bethesda, they've got something like that now with Doom. I would love to see Bethesda either bring out an RTS or bring out something like a card battler or some new type of game that they haven't touched before, and just see Bethesda's take on that genre.
Even something like, dare say it, like similar to Payday's leveling system, how you could pick your perks and stuff like that, Payday 2. I reckon they could do an FPS similar to that, with obviously different weapons, different story.
Yeah.
I reckon they could pull that off.
I mean, the problem they face with people just going, oh, we want Fallout or we want Elder Scrolls, is that they'll end up in the same boat as
World of Warcraft.
Well, I was going to say
Going
Rockstar
down.
Studios, which they're basically known for GTA and Red Dead Redemption. And people are constantly asking, oh, where's the next Red Dead game? Or have you started working on GTA 6 yet? Which, to both, the answer is probably not.
You can only play a certain amount of games so many times, and nothing that's evident.
You can only have a game set in the same world so many times before you run out of, world. Like, the Elder Scrolls games, they've got a big world because it's relatively a small area, and they've spaced it over hundreds or thousands of years. But you look at something like Fallout, and between Fallout 1 or Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 is, I think, a year or 2 years. So it's not a very long time. And it's really difficult for them to go, oh, well, we're going to have this massive world-shaking event happen, or we're going to have this massive faction-shaking event happen, and not have it have repercussions in any later games that they make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so we should be moving. I think that's time.
Yeah, we'll just do our final recommendations. We'll keep this short. My final recommendation is the light novel series and manga series Mushoku Tensei, which I'm not certain of the translation, but I think is translated something along the lines of Reborn Genius, as I know Tensei means genius. And it's basically the story about a 34-year-old hikikomori NEET, or basically a shut-in who is not in education, employment or training, who gets kicked out of his home, pushes a couple of people out of the path of a truck and then gets hit by it, and reincarnates in a new world with all of his previous memories. That this is more of a fantasy world. It's got magical races, it's got magic, and he kind of stands out because he has the memory and mentality of a 34-year-old at birth. And it's quite a good story. It's definitely one for those people who want a good in-depth read that actually explains the world that he's in, not just the character and the interactions he has with people around him.
Okay, so my recommendation for this week is the newer series that's come out, The Devil is a Part-Timer. Quite a funny series. It starts off, basically the devil is in this fantasy world. He's invaded, he's taken over every part of the world, and then this hero rises up and starts to defeat him, and almost defeats him when he flees through a portal, and he comes out the other end, and it's our world. So no magic, limited powers and limited magic. Straight away, bang, it's all gone. And she actually follows him through. So it's quite a good. Definitely worth the check out. It's quite funny.
It sounds interesting. A character who's used to having all that magical power and then just losing it.
And he's the devil.
What's he gonna do in our world?
It is quite funny, and especially because the hero that follows him also loses all her power as well. And yeah, it is definitely. I don't want to give away too much, but it is quite funny. So check that out.
Yeah. Okay. That's all for us. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.